And this gentleman said to me, we have unfortunately gotten Carl as an asset for the intelligence community because they had some dirt on him, apparently some academic impropriety when he was doing his PhD thesis. And they basically said, you'll be ruined or we'll make you rich and famous. Now you choose. He chose to become rich and famous.
So, um, Stephen Greer is making some wild claims against Carl Sagan, guys, saying that he chose riches and fame above, you know, following things as he sees it. So we're going to be talking about that. So welcome back to a brand new video on the goddamn internet. And today we're gonna be checking out some seriously cool stuff. Make sure you stay till the end because the best parts are there as always. Like, comment, share because it helps the absolute most. And without further ado, get your snacks, get your popcorn because we're gonna be watching this shit right now. So
But we're talking at a very sophisticated level now where they could, quote, entrap with false evidence almost anyone. And this has happened to a number of whistleblowers over the years and people who had really hard evidence. So that is a very nasty, dirty trick. Now, the other part of it is we have this on you. Let's say you're Carl Sagan. All right. So his very close friend, Carl Sagan, you can look him up, was a renowned astronomer. He sort of started the search for extraterrestrial intelligence with Frank Drake. One of his closest friends is on our team. He's elderly, but he was best man at Carl Sagan's wedding, and he personally witnessed. And this man is an astronomer also, who co-founded the Extrasolar Planetary Society way back 70s or 80s, looking for other planets around star systems. And this gentleman said to me, we have unfortunately gotten Carl as an asset for the intelligence community because they had some dirt on him, apparently some academic impropriety when he was doing his PhD thesis. And they basically said, you'll be ruined or we'll make you rich and famous. Now you choose. He chose to become rich and famous. But he said, Carl, this is his closest friend, I mean, best man at his wedding. He said, Carl aged 30 years in 1 month. This was so hard on him psychologically because he basically had to sell his soul to the devil. And I know so many people like that over my 35 years of doing this, and it's very hard to resist. So let's say you have that kind of file. Remember, J. Edgar Hoover famously had all kinds of files on politicians and stuff, so he could stay FBI director for decades, right? This is a well-known fact. You can look it up. But imagine an organization way above even what J. Edgar Hoover's dirty tricks could be that would collect or create dirt, but also has virtually unlimited money to put on the street to get people to cooperate. I've told this story. I know the other day I was on a podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and he said, I mentioned I was offered $2 billion by General Stubblebine in 1992. And he said, that's not possible. No one would offer that. And nobody would resist it. I said, well, I did. And it was a serious offer. But the kind of money that they can put on the street ranges a big range. Now, some people may have a $500,000 price tag. I know a ufologist that took about that much just to say things that were half truths. I don't talk about who it is, but it can go up in range. Ultimately, it's about offering people a very big threat or a very big prize to get their cooperation. And if that doesn't work and they're a little too much trouble, they will then engage in wet works, which is a term. Wets comes from blood, or they targeted killings or assassinations. And that has happened many, many times.
it seems like the CIA has people everywhere, right? People with all kinds of expertise that can be used as cover and operations, right? If you have qualifications for something that is not, CIA based, and you have a job history in another field, like you can really, divert attention from things in a way. Um, really interesting stuff. They have astronomers, they have scientists. They can basically just, create a narrative that they want using science. And all these people, it's weird.
The astronomers have long been the leading theorists on the possibility of life in outer space. Astronomer Carl Sagan is consultant to a current Air Force scientific panel. Astronomer Thornton Page was on a CIA committee that investigated UFO reports in 1952. Its conclusion? No evidence of UFOs.
Our panel was expected to be, and I think was, objective in its approach, and tried to evaluate all the reports without saying they're ridiculous in advance. That has been repeated quite recently, and that is a good reason for talking with Carl Sagan here, because he's in the same position that I was, being the only astronomer in a similar panel.
There's not a single verified or checked out report which is at all connectable with the possibility of extraterrestrial life. That doesn't say that I think extraterrestrial life is impossible. Quite the contrary. I think that many of the stars in the sky have planetary systems. We know enough now about the origin of life to make it appear likely that life arises naturally on the vast bulk of these planets. It's possible, but by no means certain, that life on many of these planets evolves into beings which are as advanced as we, or more advanced. And I don't see any reason why we can't imagine that there are civilizations thousands or millions of years in advance of ourselves, capable of technical feats that we can hardly imagine. If you would believe, as the flying saucer cultists would have us believe, that the majority of the saucer reports are due to visitations, then we have a very strange situation. That means several spaceships are coming to the Earth over interstellar distances every day, as if all the anthropologists in the world were to converge on one of the Andaman Islands in the Indian Ocean, because they just invented the fishnet there or something. I think it's much more reasonable if you want to speculate on the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence, that there are very rare visits from extraterrestrials to the Earth. There's no evidence for this. I just say that's not implausible. But to have several visits a day, I think, is straining credulity. I think a key to what's behind the real belief in flying saucers is most easily obtained if you look at the contact myths. There are several hundred people in the United States who claim to have had personal contact with the inhabitants of flying saucers who have landed. And if you examine these myths, you find that there are some peculiar regularities. The inhabitants of saucers are benevolent, I mean, they're really concerned for our well-being. They're omnipotent, extremely powerful, omniscient, extremely knowledgeable, and they often wear long white robes. Now, this combination is something I've heard in another context. This isn't science, this is religion. And what I suspect is happening is this. We live in very unsettled times. It used to be possible to believe in a personal, benevolent, powerful, all-knowing God who cared about individuals who you could pray to. But now, there's very few people who really believe that, I think. Science, for good or for ill, has destroyed a lot of the traditional theologies. And yet people have the same needs to believe that they always did, perhaps more so because of the times we live in. Well, the flying saucer myths are a really clever compromise. It's a way of having beings that come from the sky, that are worried about us, that are powerful, that are going to step in and prevent us from destroying ourselves, as we may very well might, and yet have it in the cloak of science, so that no one can say nonsense that doesn't match science. It's all very pseudo-scientific. I would think that, at least for the contact myths, and probably for a lot of the events of people who just see things they don't understand flying overhead, that what's involved is psychology and theology, and not so much the physical sciences.
So, as we have seen, scientists think the evidence is mounting that life in some form exists elsewhere in the universe. But almost unanimously, they find no evidence that anything out there has come here. One thing is clear. You could not keep a spaceship a secret. Too many professionals with too many powerful instruments are probing the skies these days. too many journalists could not be restrained from trumpeting one of the greatest news stories of all time. It also seems clear that since the security of our world is involved in converting all UFOs immediately into IFOs, perhaps these phenomena are properly the responsibility of scientists and the military, with periodic reports to the public on what they have found, if anything. The rest of us can emulate the scientists by keeping an open mind, since yesterday's fantasy sometimes turns into tomorrow's reality. We might remember, too, that while fantasy improves science fiction, science is more often served by facts. This is Walter Cronkite for CBS Reports. Good night.
So I wonder what it's like to be a paid asset, right? How would that even work? What would it entail? Like your responsibilities, right? So they just send you a text wherever you are in your covert operation or fake life or whatever the fuck, I don't even know, and give you things to do that's in the interest of his nation. Like what? You know, there should be interviews with people of this kind. Yeah, gonna be checking out some of that. If anyone knows more, make sure to share it down below. It's really interesting. Like, that's such a cool way to make money, right?